So, of course, as all the teachers, all the union teachers are, now cutting for the exit, running out the side door with all of their pensions, their benefits, all the goodies and the gimmies. Run they ought. Run they ought. They have been complicit in a scheme to deliberately dumb down the American people, and unfortunately they themselves have been dumbed down, because with each generation, a graduating herd with their prom kings and queens, as they come out of these public schools these last 50 years, they have become then themselves oftentimes teachers, and they, with their limited knowledge, come back in and teach. And they're always, up to the standards and up to the curricula, and they can't question it. They got to, in order to get tenure, they have to stay the course and stay the rules and follow the A plus B equals C's. And unfortunately, we the people have gone further and further and further away from being able to ferret this stuff out for ourselves, and then much less to understand it when we can read it. When we get the black and the white in our eyes sometimes, and I'm reading Henry Bergson, Creative Evolution, 160-some pages into a 500-page book, but you just sit there and you got to wonder, what in the hell would it be like had I gotten a decent upbringing and learned logic and rhetoric and grammar right out of the box? I've had to pick this stuff up piecemeal just like everyone else has to these days. But continue. We'll never get through all of this. I got volumes and volumes in front of me here. Maybe we'll continue it tomorrow, maybe not. But just a little bit more. Again, such an organization avoids the statutory regulations of a corporation in that it is not a creature of the state. And it seeks as well to avoid partnership liability on the part of the investors. The courts in most of the states, however, have held that if the investors under the trust agreement have a right to exercise some control over the management of the business by way of election of trustees or otherwise, such shareholders are liable as partners. There's some liability, but we'll need to be smart enough to be able to figure out how to exercise that. It is clear, on the other hand, that if such shareholders have no control over or no right to interfere in any way with the management of the business, they are beneficiaries under a trust agreement and are not liable as partners. And so why is it that we don't have any representation in our constitutionally limited Republican form of representative government? Maybe because it is a trust, and we as the beneficiaries, don't want to get involved with any of that because we don't want to come under or become liable as partners. This organization has been called different names, such as a business trust, a Massachusetts trust, and the common law trust. As a substitute for a corporation, it has lost many of its advantages owing to statutory regulation by the various states. Now, we could take a little sidebar there, and we could talk once again about the creation of this Uniform Law Commission. We'll follow it out from the inception, the creation of the American Bankers Association. And check this out. You can do it on web searches easily. American Bankers Association. Almost immediately followed thereafter, and not far distant in space, the American Bar Association. Almost immediately thereafter, the creation of the American Medical Association. American Bar Association creates the Uniform Commission on Laws. They're the Commission on Uniform Laws. They still exist. They have a website. They have the Uniform Law Commission. They create the legislative bill drafting agencies in all of the state houses. Who writes the legislation? Well, oftentimes it's the corporation's attorneys, but certainly the legislative bill drafting agencies have to sit back there and they check it all out and harmonize it, and they write the rules behind the table of contents and stuff like that. It's a rigged game. We're not in the game. We have to play by its rules. But there's a system going on out there. It's the new legal order. It's the new legal and economic order. It started turning up in writings as early as the late 1600s. The new legal order. The new economic order. Nothing really too new about it. Drop down a little bit further here. The trustees are usually held to have unlimited liability for all obligations of the business trust unless the contracts restrict the rights of the creditors to the assets of the trust. That may become even more important statement as the United States, as the debtor, has now started to sell as collateral our lands and our resources to our creditors in China and elsewhere, the King of Siam and the Queen of England, and the Rothschilds, and the Pope. Generally, those organizations known as business trusts engage in the investment business. Goldman Sachs, maybe? Investors purchase shares or certificates which entitle the holders to income from an increased value of stocks and bonds purchased by the trustees or the directors of the trust. Some of the pension funds might be held in this way. Jump over here, go to a different book. This donated to our library by our good friend 10K Puddles in the chat room. Thank you very much for it. The 4th edition, revised 4th edition of Black's Law Dictionary. Right back to the Rockefellers here, probably. The trust. It's a right of property, real or personal, held by one for the benefit of another. I was told by a lawyer once that in law, you set aside Webster's dictionary, and just about everything in law is defined by this book, the Black's Law Dictionary. And there's others out there, Bouvet and the Bouviers and others, but this one is really important. And so I'd really encourage people, if you can't afford the big ones, the Black's 8th, or I think they might even have a 9th now, you can always get the second pocket edition, and it'll get you on deck quickly. But of course, with the internet today, there's so much easier just to go right there sometimes. But there's a lot that can be learned from these books. A confidence reposed in one person who is termed the trustee for the benefit of another who is called the cestui qui trust. Respecting property which is held by the trustee for the benefit of the trust. So, okay, then it goes on and lists a bunch of cases. Any arrangement whereby property is transferred with the intention that it is administered by trustee for another's benefit. Property transfers. I don't like that. I don't like that. I want to be transferring my property around. I don't want any, fraudulent conversion or fraudulent concealment happening in the background. I buy a damn thing, I want it to be mine. I didn't buy it because I wanted to share it with someone else. I wanted to buy it for me. Sorry about that. I get a little possessive. Title rights and interest in my land. Thank you very much. I don't really like this idea of trustee, especially when it's hidden. And we have to ferret it out and ferret it out and ferret it out and then beg on our knees to have what we thought we had if we hadn't been caught up in a swindle. A fiduciary relation with respect to property, subjecting persons to whom the property is held to equitable duties to deal with the property for the benefit of another person, which arises as the result of a manifestation of an intention to create it. Ever wonder why the city or the county can come around and tell you to get rid of these noxious weeds off your land? Mow that grass, sucker. 2.5 inches tall, and we start finding on the 3rd day. You got to chip paint around the door there. You better get that stripped down and get it painted up again. You're not taking care of our property up to our standards. By the way, you're late on your property taxes. You keep it up, and you'll be out in the streets, sucker. What kind of a world is this, anyway? What are you paying for with all these 30-year mortgages? What the hell is a 30-year mortgage? Why don't you just rent the joint? Let's get honest. Can't own it anyway, right? And if I don't own it, I ain't maintaining it. Hire a maintenance man come by. I'm not your yard boy. An obligation on a person arising out of confidence reposed in him to apply property faithfully and according to such confidence as being in the nature of a deposition by which proprietor transfers to another property of subject entrusted, not that it should remain with him, but that it should be obliged to certain uses for the behoof of a third party. Wow. The law language. The words of art. And by such, all of our understanding is just clouded away. And then you try and go to the courthouse, and you can't even get in the front door without a body scan. And take your pocket knife back outside. I don't go any places without my pocket knife. I've carried a pocket knife all my life. I got to take my pocket knife back outside and put it in the truck. It's not going to do me any good out there. What if I got to pair my nails? For God's sake, sharpen my pencil. You're stripping me naked by taking away my pocket knife. But a trust can be created for any purpose, which is not illegal, and which is not against any public policy. Well, That's enough for today. I hope that was illuminating. We might continue it again the next time, and until the next time.